Head to Canada now, and joining me live is political commentator Keith Baldrey. Mark Carney, tell me about him.
Former Bank of Canada governor, Tim, also former Bank of England governor as well. No experience in politics, but significant experience in the economic side. And right now, faced with a tariff war, this is probably placed to Carney's strength. Even though he's a political neophyte with a lack of experience, I think what Canadians are looking for more than ever is some sort of street cred when it comes to taking on Donald Trump and the United States in a tariff fight and seeing the economy plunge into chaos. The time is right for Carney to make his mark. Having said that, he's up against a pretty formidable opponent in Pierre Poilievre, who's the leader of the Conservatives, who has, that's basically all he's done is politics his entire professional life. But he's a good communicator. He's been leading the polls for months. And what seemed to be a runaway Conservative victory just months ago now looks like a very competitive race with our new Prime Minister and Mr. Poilievre scoring off. And basically what's going to be a 50-50 battle. The New Democratic Party and the Bloc Québécois sort of on the fringes of the political spectrum right now. So Canada's in for a pretty, I think, feisty and lively election, likely to begin within 2 weeks, looking for a vote sometime likely in late April or early May.
He was pretty clear, wasn't he? Obviously, that election's to come. As you mentioned, it's very, very tight. But Mark Carney was very clear yesterday with his colleagues behind him on the response to Donald Trump and the whole idea of Canada becoming the 51st state.
Yeah, it's a complete non-starter for Canadians. And Mark Carney is expressing the view that pretty well 90, if not 100% of the population feels here in Canada. There's absolutely zero interest in being an extension of the United States. We've enjoyed the longest and undefended border in the entire world for centuries now. There's no appetite whatsoever to be annexed by Mr. Trump. He's basically trying to strangle Canada economically by slapping significant tariffs on the goods we ship south of the border. Canada, number one trading customer is the United States by a wide margin. Some provinces in this country, 90% of their trade is with the United States. Alberta, right next door here to BC, sends much of its oil south of the border to the United States. Ontario, the most populated province, sends significant amount, almost $70 billion worth of automobiles and automobile parts to the United States. The two countries are intrinsically linked like no other countries in the world. And it's hard to see how either of us can disentangle ourselves from each other when it comes to trade. But certainly politically, zero interest, zero appetite to see the states come in here. And Trump is clearly trying to hope that those attitudes will change in his favor once the potentially catastrophic impact of what he's planning to do to Canada is felt economically, as we potentially see enormous job loss, people's retirement savings disappearing because of a crashing stock market, if you like. So again, the war is just starting. Carney today, though, I have to tell you, Tim, struck a somewhat conciliatory tone towards Trump, talking about how they worked together in the past when he was in the private sector. And that was more conciliatory than we've seen from other Canadian politicians in recent months.
How do people feel on the street? What is the general message at dinner parties and water coolers in Canada? Do they feel sideswiped?
I think they feel worried. They think we're dealing with a somewhat unhinged person in the White House, in the most powerful office in the entire world, worried about the future of our economy. But also, Canadians are starting to express a nationalism, a national pride that we haven't seen for quite some time, as people are coming together, rallying around the flag. You know, the flag was usurped by a sort of anti-vax protest movement, a so-called trucker convoy a number of years ago at the beginning of the pandemic. But people have now reclaimed the flag, and the likes of which we haven't seen in Canada before. We're not known for showy patriotism or jingoism. The United States is much more known for that, for their USA chants at the Olympics, wrapping themselves in the American flag. Canadians are much more modest about that, but that's starting to be shed as patriotism is coming to the fore. I've never seen more Canadian flags hanging off people's front steps of their homes than in recent times. It's just unheard of in Canada to do this, but it's happening precisely because we feel under threat from what has traditionally been our strongest ally and our strongest friend is now emerging potentially as our worst ever enemy.
Keith, let's talk over the next few weeks because there's plenty happening in Canada. Thanks for coming on the program.
Always a pleasure.